All right, so in this video, we are going to be rounding numbers to the nearest tenth. So a couple things to remember is we are going to use our mountain here, that you'll notice that we round down anytime you have a number 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 next to the number you're rounding. So in this case, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So anything next to it is going to help us decide, would we keep that a 1 or would we make that a 2? If it's larger than a 4, like a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we would round up. So we're going to look at this digit, the tenths place. The number to the right of it is going to help us determine whether we round up or down. So let's take a look at this first example. We have 32 and 16 hundredths. So here is the number we are rounding. The number 6 is going to tell us if we're rounding up or we're rounding down. So let's take a look at that. We are going to use this number. So I like to underline the actual number that's being rounded, which is our tenths place. So I'm going to underline the 1. I point to the number 6 because that's the number that tells me, is this going to stay a 1 or are we going to make it a 2? So are we going to keep it as 32.1 or are we going to round up to 32.2? And that's actually 32 and 1/10. Or 32 and 2/10. Well, since this number is a 6, according to our rules, we're going to round it up to 32.2. So we would say that this equals 32 and 2/10. Right? Okay. So here we've got 9 and 63 hundredths. So the number we're rounding is going to be the tenths place. That is the 6. So is it going to stay 9 and 6/10, or is it going to go up to 9 and 7/10? That's what we're deciding. So is it going to stay or go up? Now, the number 3 is the number we look at. Now, according to our rules, because it's a 3, that means it's going to stay the same. We're actually going to change it from a 63 to a 6. So 9 and 6/10 is going to be what we round it to. Now, some students like to add the zeros on the end, but we're actually getting rid of any extra numbers that are on the right side of this digit. We actually are going to just get rid of them. We are not even going to change them to zeros. So same thing here, we're just going to get rid of them. We're not even going to change them to zeros. All right, let's take a look at two more. So we have 147 and 994 thousandths. So which number are we rounding? We're rounding the tenths place. Now in this case, this is either going to stay a 9 or it's going to round to a 0. Now what do I mean by 0? This looks like a 79 here. So when you round up, you actually add the 1 here. So it would look like this. We'd say 147.9 or 9/10. Is it going to stay like that? Or are we going to go up to 148 with 0/10? Because what comes after 9? After 9, you go to 10. So if you look at this as a 7 and a 9, after that, it's going to become an 80. Okay, so let's take a look. We have a 9 next to it. So according to our rules, anytime you have 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we're going to round up, which means the number is going to become a little larger. So therefore, our answer is going to be 148 and 0/10. Now in this case, you do want to change that 9 into a 0, showing that you have 0/10. All right, last one, let's take a look at this one. We have no whole numbers here, okay? But we do have our tenth. So we're rounding to the nearest tenth. And we are going to look at the 3. Is this going to stay 2/10? So are we going to keep it as 2/10 or are we going to round up to 3/10? So because the number next to it is a 3, we would say we round down or keep it the same. So we're still going to have 2/10. So our final answer here would be 2/10. Now I do have one more example I'd like to show you just because I think you might see this on rare occasions. So this last example I'd like to show you would be 0 whole numbers, 0/10, and let's say 81 thousandths. So this particular question, same thing. We're still rounding to our nearest tenth. That's going to be our 0. I'm going to draw an arrow to my number next to it. Now, is this going to stay a 0? Is this going to stay a 0, or are we going to round up? Now, there are times when it would stay a 0 or become a 0, okay? So in this case, we notice there's an 8. Now, because it's 5 through 9 and it's going to round up, we would actually say that we're going to choose this, so the final answer is 0 and 1/10, because 1 more than 0 is 1, okay? So hopefully this helps. Definitely rewind the video, pause the video as needed, go back and rewatch any of these that would help you with your work.